What's up, guys? Coach Gaglione here. Here's another Gags Goals update. So at the time of this recording, I got the news that my kind of side quest got canceled. So a lot of this kind of peaking footage is going to be, unfortunately, for no reason. So I would never really kind of do this type of workout where I'm kind of taking singles, let alone taking singles with some reverse bands. But nonetheless, that's kind of like why I was kind of doing this workout. I was kind of traveling. I wasn't at HQ. So on this particular day, I wanted to work up to a heavy single in squat, and then the raw squat, and then also the raw, overhead press or, strict press, whatever you want to call it. I'm just going to call it a press, just because I am using some layback here. Again, not quite as aggressive as some of the, the Russians and stuff. And what really is annoying is I end up kind of tweaking my back a little bit. Didn't really have a lot of help on the day. But this was right after August of Arms and, our heat wave dead weight deadlift contest. We had, one of our athletes, Kim, who's a remote member. She's doing really well in strict curl. She's, curling over 100 pounds right now as a master's lifter. And then she also hit an all-time bench press PR of 185 on this day. I don't have footage of that, but that was pretty cool. So, my kind of goal was to kind of work up to something over 225 and then something over like 575 on the squat. And I liked to kind of go back and forth. In hindsight, I probably should have just did my squats and then did my presses after. As you can kind of see here, I just wanted to kind of experiment with some reverse bands. Use micro minis for both, which is very modest. And to be honest, I don't really think the micro minis did too much in terms of the press. And just because I've gotten a little bit kind of good with that little hip hop and layback, I don't really know how much. I probably needed it to be a little bit more aggressive than I thought with the reverse bands, especially when it comes to the press. But just something I just wanted to kind of experiment with, like, the overload a little bit, because I never really kind of try to peak for that exercise. The most I did was 225 in training for like a single, and that moved pretty good. And then for squat, the most I did without kind of chains or anything was like 540 straight weight. And then I did like a bunch of stuff with, I don't know, as far as the total system load in like, kind of the 585 to like low 600 range. So I believe I ended up doing, I don't remember if I took the collars off. I think I ended up doing like around 606, or I think like whatever it was 270, I think it's like 275 kilos. And then I missed 240 a few times. I ended up kind of hitting 235. So that kind of just kind of tells me the reverse bands really weren't doing much. Just because I know that I was stronger kind of going into this day, even though I was a little fatigued. The other thing that was kind of been bothering me the last like few weeks and kind of going into this workout, I've been having some issues with my CPAP machine. I do have sleep apnea. Was able to get a new machine, so kind of rectified that. But I would kind of call this like day kind of like a subtotal day. So yeah, you can kind of see, I think that was 225. So usually that would move a lot smoother. I had a really kind of hard hiccup there. And I think I ended up missing 240 twice, and then I ended up getting 235. And I just don't post my misses. I just don't, just from a brain standpoint, I don't really like to like watch misses. I don't know, just like maybe it's like a superstitious thing. But the other thing you kind of see, I kind of cut my squat a little bit high. I'm used to having my wife kind of call my depth and stuff, and I just didn't really have enough help on this particular day. But nonetheless, it's kind of even hard to see from that angle. It probably was. Anyways, I could tell I cut it like a little bit high, but it kind of moved decent. So I'm confident I could do that. I'm confident with, especially with the micro mini. And if I was able to peak, it is nice to kind of know. So you can kind of see this was like a crazy grind. But nonetheless, 240 pounds is my all-time strict press PR, so that's pretty good. So now on to my strict curl training. I've been getting better and better at the Hampton bar. There's recently been kind of like a lot of talk, east versus west. Which bar should you use? Should you use the OBZ? Should you use the Gopher bar? And I think when we were looking at history, when we were looking at other sports and kind of advancements in technology, you need to equipment needs to kind of evolve as the athlete performance increases, in my opinion. And if you look at like other, plenty of other sports, there have been instances like in swimming where like, I think they had these swimsuits, everyone was breaking records and they kind of banned them. So there have been instances where people kind of have backtracked. So like the Kabuki deadlift bar might be an example of that. Again, I don't think it's one of those things. I just think you need to kind of have some standard, and you do need to draw the line somewhere. But as now we're kind of getting athletes that are kind of squatting 1,000 pounds, we get, raw. We're just kind of seeing things that are kind of unprecedented. You have someone like a Julius Maddox that's approaching has approached an 800 like raw bench. And if we're really trying to kind of test strength, we don't really want barbells that are causing like a lot of instability, right? So when you kind of get to, in my opinion, I've kind of felt this even with like a 700 pound squat. The most I've ever done on a power bar is like 750, and I felt like it was the hardest part was going down with it. And this was at more of my peak strength, so just FYI there. So anyways, when it comes to safety and, athlete longevity and performance, in my opinion, I think, making sure that especially the squat bars and the bench bars, so using kind of kilo plates with like the stiffest bar possible, I think is going to give you the truest test of strength. And then, there is some argument though, like if you have a whippier bar, like if you look at like weightlifters and stuff, actually kind of timing that whip can be a benefit. But again, you're kind of having to deal with those forces. And again, with absolute poundages, I don't think that it's the best idea personally to. And then, with the deadlift bar, kind of the one caveat to that, using a whippier bar for deadlift is going to put you in a slightly better starting position. Again, a lot of people don't know that the diameter of the plates was kind of really made more for weightlifting, so you wouldn't kind of crush yourself if you fell on the floor and the barbell that's like kind of why you have the diameter of plates. So it is kind of like an arbitrary height. Anyways, just something to consider where I don't think that we should necessarily change the height of the deadlift plates at this point, but I think again but if you look at that's why a lot of people kind of gravitated towards sumo. It's a little bit easier on the lower back. It's more of a technical lift. You can be more efficient and have like less lower back stress. So when it comes to strict curl, with a gopher bar or a bar with the kind of deeper grooves, a lot of people think it's just about being at close grip. It's more about being more pronated. So if you look at some of these like U bars and stuff, some of these bars that you kind of see overseas, you're seeing even bigger records. I think now you're kind of seeing like 120, 125 kilo, quote unquote, strict curls. And there is kind of like, I think a difference in kind of the standard. Again, I think 100% raw is like the gold standard in the United States in terms of how they judge it. And again, they're using a gopher bar. People are able to kind of train more frequently with it. Your biceps are a little bit less exposed. And sure, yes, you can potentially lift a little bit more weight, but again, I think it's going to be kind of safer for the athletes in general. But I am kind of getting a hang on this Hampton bar. I've been hitting kind of rep PRs on it. I would say I'm probably about like 20 pounds weaker, at least right now. I think this is like 165 pounds feels crazy, like heavy, which is kind of interesting. But so I feel like there's like a 20 pound drop off. So if I can get like 160 plus at the meet, I'd be happy. And I think that'll kind of be like well on my way to kind of my climb to 185 on the gopher bar. But anyways, I've been kind of happy with my performance. I've been getting the hang of the bar. I feel like you need to generate more force with a Hampton bar or a regular easy bar. And again, the Hampton bar is even more straight and less cambered than the OBZ. So anyways, really trying to kind of keep the bar. I've also been trying to really train beltless. I think, the only reason I kind of threw my belt on the last meet because I wanted to beat the local guy. I just want to kind of make sure. But I've been kind of trying to keep my arms longer. I've been trying to kind of get a little bit more of a bounce with that stretch reflex. Just to kind of get started again within the rules, of course, but just trying to kind of take advantage of a little bit of a stretch to kind of rebound. So I'm working on my mobility. I'm working on my bar path. So I've been hitting I think I did like 65 kilos for a triple and 67.5 kilos for a double. So all in all, things have been looking pretty good. Kind of very happy about that. And so I think this is, I'm hoping that this is just a little bit of a glitch here. But yeah, things have been going kind of really well with my training. I'm very happy to report that. And I think part of that, like I said, I've been kind of doing some work at a commercial gym. I kind of got the framework of my program kind of dialed in. I'm going to be kind of upping my training to 3 times a week. So I'll have like a max effort day on Monday, more of a volume-based day on Wednesday, and then more of like kind of a speed focus or power focus day with chains on Fridays. So so on this particular video, we're just showing kind of like the max effort work. So I'm basically just kind of doing like a top set and then just doing some reverse band work and then like a heavy hold. On the volume day, I'm doing like multiple sets of higher reps, and I'm usually using preacher curls and seated curls, some more supplemental exercises, more variations. But overall, like the training's been going well. I'm really excited to kind of return to Mr. America. Again, for those that aren't familiar, Mr. America is the meet I did it in 2020. I did my first bodybuilding show in 2020 at Mr. America, so it's a really cool like little fitness expo, almost kind of like a mini Arnold, but on the East Coast. So definitely kind of check it out. It's going to be, I think, the second weekend in October, and then the strict curls on Sunday. I think it's either the 12th or the 13th. I don't have the exact date in my memorized, excuse me. So, but anyways, max effort day, a top set. I'm kind of cycling through triples, doubles, and singles. Kind of going to go through that a few times, and then I'm doing a reverse band set with slightly heavier weight and a heavy hold. On the volume day, I'm kind of doing multiple sets of kind of like the 5 to 8 rep range with both preacher and seated curls. And then on the power day or the dynamic day with chains, I'm kind of cycling through like 5x5, 6x4s, 8x3s. So until next time, guys, stay strong. We'll see you soon.